Dr. Trudy Jermnovich, and I'm a retired teacher, taught for 35 years. In my many hats, I spent one very amazing and very stressful year as an ESE coordinator because I was drafted, and it was in an autism cluster. And so you can imagine what my life was like then. I've also had many mainstreamed students over the years, and students with spina bifida, hearing and sight impaired, as well as most classes that have students with processing skills and other identified and unidentified students. The reason I gave you a letter which came to one of your schools is because I think the core problem with all of the ESE and all the other programs is that we have way too much testing going on in our schools. And this testing is not beneficial, especially for students that may have processing skills and so, and you're trying to pull the class apart in too many ways, and it's an impossible task. And when you ask teachers to do the things that you're asking them to do, you're not taking away something else that they have to do. You know the long list that you've seen from some of the teachers out there. And something has to give here. That's why you're losing teachers. I also wanted to give you a couple of ideas. You need to think about why are we not providing more adequate technology like this in the schools. I know when at our schools we always had too few resources for special ed students. They fought for the resources that they had. You need to figure out a way to give them the right resources, not just something that they can take a test on. Also, it was mentioned about how many students go away. The letter that you have was because, the reason I brought it was because it was sent out, and it was a letter that was almost identical to one that was sent out a year ago. You'll notice that it has the wrong name of the chair on it as well. Nothing's changed in a year as far as testing goes. Nothing. That's ridiculous. You have got to do something about teachers and students who need to be able to step back from this. And you're not taking anything away. All you're doing is making their working conditions much worse. Please, please do something about the amount of testing that you have, and because it affects every child in the classroom, not just the ones with special ed. Thanks.
Terry Preuss.
Hello, my name is Terry Lopez Preuss, and I am a teacher. I'm an advocate for students, parents, and education workforce. I'm really glad that this topic came up. This is a topic where it's really not the place to try to save money. It's really the place to try to service these kids. They have special needs and they need us to be aware of it. I would like to advocate for how important it is for all people who work with children to understand these kinds of special needs. Broward Teachers Union happens to have some ESE training, which we give to our teachers because we think it's so important for them to be apprised of it, and we handle that through Broward Teachers Union. When I went through the training, I realized that all teachers need this training and all students should have an IEP so that we could really understand them. And I thought that was pretty cool. Going into inclusion myself was a challenge, so I really appreciate those of you who understand that it is a big challenge. And prior to my understanding what inclusion was when I worked in Miami, I knew that if you had good behavior management, you could usually handle 1 or 2 behavior problems in every class. When the numbers got to 3 and 4, that became tough for most teachers, and only a real expert could handle that. But when it starts getting to 6, 7, 8, and 9, it's nearly impossible, and that is what is happening in some of the inclusion classes. However, we have those experts that go in. We have the training that we're getting. That doesn't keep the teachers from being overwhelmed. We've got to bridge that gap. We've got to listen to what our ESPs and teachers are telling us. They cannot be afraid of retaliation, or if I tell you what's really happening, am I going to lose my job? Because that is taking place. That is taking place. what looks good on paper, it's not always what's really happening in the classroom. These people are overwhelmed. Sometimes it is impossible to do what we are asked to do. And when you add to that the stress of an evaluation system that determines how good you're doing based on how many kids' fingers go up and down and what percentage, whether it's 100% of the kids or 90% of the kids are on task, this puts teachers in a very, very bad position. And they can lose their jobs rather quickly if they begin to get ineffective scores because of wanting to be a part of the inclusion program, because of the inclusion program wanting to be a part of us. So I would like you guys to really be sensitive to that, because we are being put in situations that we have very minor training for, but you need a vast amount of training. And there are experts, and it used to be only the experts that taught in this area. And now many of us are asked to do this, and we don't have full training, and we are being prejudiced for it. And thank you for talking about the ESPs. They do need more money. They do a remarkable work with this group. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now transition to